4 contestants enter, but only 1 leaves a champion. That's right, it's time for the one and only Project Nerd Game Show. Live from the Project Nerd Studios in StreamYard, it's The Last Word.
Welcome to The Last Word today. I'm your host, Andrew Adair, Andy Adair, the man on the computer in front of you right now. If this is your first time watching, thank you so much for being here. It's been a while, and I'm so excited with the guests that we have today because we have some really good, heavy-hitting guests that you might have seen around before, but I'm huge fans of all 3 of these people here. So let's bring them in one at a time. First, one of my favorites, Mia. Mia, great to see you.
Hello, hello.
How are things with you?
Things are freaking great.
That's good. Okay, cool. Up next, we're going to bring in Ginger.
Hi.
Good to see you today.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming. How are things with you?
Things are good. They're great.
Yeah,
I just moved. This is the only room that is presentable for company. So
it looks extremely presentable. It looks very nice.
Don't worry about the rest of the house. It's fine.
And last but not least, Cost Mama Sarah, welcome.
Hey,
great to have you.
It's good to be here.
So, how are you doing? What have you been up to lately?
Working a lot, doing all my fun, creative artwork for my main job, and I just got to do Fan Expo Denver with Project Nerd, one of our live events, and we're hoping to do some more conventions coming up, and we have Colorado Springs coming up, so I'm getting pretty heavy in the event scene again, which is really refreshing.
Awesome. We will low-key be plugging Colorado Springs, I'm sure, the whole time during this episode.
A little too early.
Coming up weekend of August 19th. Anyway, so thank you guys for all being here today. Let's get into it. We got 4 questions, so we're going to do round 1 and 2, and you're all going to be here for the whole time. So everyone's going to get to talk a whole bunch before we get to our final round, and we will get started. So we talk a lot of Marvel on this show, and there has been a lot of talk online lately that the Phase 4 for Marvel is kind of more meh than it has been in the past, right? And I want to hear your thoughts on your expectations, the current state of Marvel, the problem that we are having. Like, are my expectations too high? Now, I want to say that I love Miss Marvel. I think that show's really good, and I do think they have some wins here, but I can kind of understand overall what's being said. Sarah, what do you think? Let's start with you.
No. So yeah, I do have opinions on that. And I'm going to kind of what you touched on. I think what we need to let go, what Marvel needs to let go of, and it might be hard for them to do that because it might cause an uproar in the fandoms. I think we need to let go of the grand universal plots and the grand battles and these epic galaxy wars. And I think we need to go back to the roots of what initially started the original beginning of this, phenomenon, which is individual on the ground hero stories. And we need to find a way to reinvent that franchise within the Marvel community. And I do think that Miss Marvel is probably the best thing they have out right now. Actually, I do believe that it's the best thing they have out right now. And it's because, one, it knows what it is. It knows its age gap, who they're marketing to, who the story is for, who we're supposed to be relating to. And yeah, maybe like a 45-year-old man wouldn't get this, but that's okay because we haven't had any content for that youth and that teenager, like this kind of comedy CW type show. And I think that's why it's one of the best ones, because it knows exactly what it is and it's so different. And like looking at, like, I don't want to do any spoilers yet, but like with Love and Thunder, just because it wasn't quite there, kind of kooky, kind of weird. And then I really liked WandaVision, but then you could tell they didn't know where they were going to go with the character. So then Wanda's switch in the multiverse with Doctor Strange was so sudden. We didn't get any interim to really get her to be that level of evil that she became. And then I thought the America Chavez character was one of the most refreshing things in it. And it was like them trying to bridge this gap between like this idea of like the old guardian, wise man, bigger than God type character, which is what we were used to with all these heroes. And now we have all these young generations. It's probably why Spider-Man is staying so solid, because that we know exactly what that is as well. So I think Marvel needs to let go of the first original idea that they had, because it worked great. It built the world. We're here now. Phase 4 needs to be more of a reinvention and maybe exploring the next generation, and then we can get to another epic and big story. But we can't keep linking everything to Thanos and this and to that and to the Avengers. Like, we need to stop, separate, and I think embracing this new idea of kind of teens and like new adventures and more coming of age, different battles, more internal battles. I think that's the way to go, because they kind of tried doing it with Thor and it just did not work well. He's a grown man. It didn't vibe. And maybe it's just time for new stories, and that might mean a new audience, but it doesn't mean the death to a franchise.
Yeah. Ginger, Marvel has in the 2021, 3 of their 5 worst reviewed movies came out in that year. And if you include Black Widow, which I still really liked, that is in their like least 10 worst reviewed movies that they have. So what do you think about what's going on right now in the MCU?
I think part of it's a saturation problem. I think we have such a quantity of Marvel like franchises and products and things being thrown at us between Disney Plus and between film that like statistically they can't all be great. For one thing, I think it's a quantity thing, and I think everyone's expectations stay at 10, but there are so many things that even if something comes in at a 7, everyone's like, it was more like a 3 because there's so much. And then something that I've really loved about Phase 4 is the tone shift from one franchise to another, like WandaVision to Loki to Moon Knight to Love and Thunder, very like tonally very different, and kind of what Sarah was touching on between WandaVision and Multiverse of Madness, like the tone for Wanda is vastly different. Like Sam Raimi's take on Wanda is terrifying, as it should be. But I think because these things are coming out in rapid succession, it's almost causing a whiplash for people who maybe were not expecting such diverse tones and perspectives. They were, we're making superhero movies, we're making Avengers, like we kind of know what we're going to expect. And Phase 4 has not really done that. And so I think some people are having a hard time recalibrating from one type of tone to another. And I think that's part of the backlash with Miss Marvel. I think that they're just they weren't anticipating the tone that they got and the style that it was done in. And that's unfortunate because it's great.
It's really, really good. It's so different, than what we've seen. And kind of to your saturation point too, let's see, Phase 3 was 1,515 minutes of content. And so far, Phase 4 is at 2,161 minutes of content.
It's so
we're
much.
Already a lot over Phase 3, and we are not done yet with still Phase 4. Mia, what do you think about what's going on?
I think that Marvel and Disney both feel a lot of pressure from 2 entirely different demographics. There's the older age group that, grew up with the original comics and then saw all of these films being made, that individual build up, those 10 plus years of the films and Avengers, and there's that pressure of, well, we have to keep feeding them because they're the reason why we existed in the first place. And then there's also, well, they're aging out, and right now the best money is always going to be where the parents are going to drop it. So you also have to think financially, at least from we have to cater to a younger demographic at the same time. And then I think all of that plus the cultural inclusion that's being had, and there's some people who are grateful, and then there's others who say, well, it feels forced, like with Mighty Thor and with Miss Marvel and all that other stuff, and they're just like, why do we have to have this? Why couldn't we just have things the way they were before? And it's equally just as much some people not keeping up. And I also definitely agree with that like whiplash, that because it's like they got so excited that it was all being accepted that they were like, we have to make sure we put it all out before the interest dies, without realizing that if they would have kept gone the turtle route instead of the hare route, that slow and steady, continuous individual thing, calling back to what Sarah said, of like individual stories building up to the next phase, I definitely think that would have been the superior option. Am I grateful for what we are getting? Yes, 1,000%. Absolutely. Very grateful. But I think it's unless they go back and do what they already have proven was right and good and the way to go, there's the only thing Force and Thor were the
horrible jokes.
Stay focused. No.
Sorry. No, and I think there was something else. I had gotten distracted by that joke. There was something else I was going to say, but overall, I have a little bit of agreement and a little bit of disagreement. So I think, yes, keep going. Please don't stop. I definitely want to see what continues building, but it's okay to slow it down. I think people do need a little bit of a breather. If 2022 has anything to say about shows and movies across the board, it's that there is a lot of content being thrown at us all the time from across different streaming networks and all that other stuff. And it's okay to take a break so that way we can keep building excitement along the fans. Like that's what they need to do.
I feel like
Go ahead,
what
Sarah.
everybody what we all just said all kind of just reminds me of, it's like they got so good that they started making the same mistakes the Justice League that Warner Brothers did from the very beginning, was trying to shell out these characters to make a franchise.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my gosh, you've become the thing that you didn't do, which is what made you great.
And now DC is just kind of like letting directors direct whatever they want with whatever characters they want. And
it's coming out better.
There's no continuity, but I would argue that Marvel's movies have been not as good overall as the DC movies since Endgame. And that maybe, that's the whole point of this. And my big takeaway was, I think that Marvel's going to hit a lot of doubles, but they're not going to hit a lot of home runs anymore. And we're going to get maybe like one great movie every couple years. And then we're going to just have to really be okay enjoying everything, which I'm totally down for. I love all the stuff still. And I like the different takes on everything. So hopefully we don't get shoehorned back into what we used to have, because I don't think that's the right decision either. So, all right, our next question. Let's talk some Emmy nominations, and those dropped last week. I don't know if you guys are TV show fans or not, but there was a lot of notable things. Succession, if you're a fan of that show, 25 nominations. Ted Lasso had 20. Some notable snubs, according to the internet, of course, is Stranger Things, right? Not a lot of nominations. They had I think 11 total or 12 total. And none of the actors
13.
that people were really wanting. Was it 13 total?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So let's start there. Mia, why don't you go first actually on this and tell us, what do you think about the Emmy noms? Anything that you wanted to bring up? Snubs, predictions?
I don't necessarily have any snub feelings. I am considering how the award shows have been when it comes to child-centric shows that have a serious overtone on them. I think the fact that Stranger Things and even Euphoria have any number is outstanding in and of itself. So I feel like, if anything, there's a glimmer of hope into what shows like the Emmys are doing moving forward. So really the only other thing I'm seeing is shows that I'm missing out on. Like The White Lotus, I've actually never heard of that. And so now I just feel like this has added on some things that I just need to watch. So less things that I feel were snubbed and more things that I feel I need to appreciate instead. I do think that when it comes to shows like Severance and shows like Pam and Tommy, that Severance has such Severance really hits you here in your soul, and then Pam and Tommy's like, well, this is how I would like to watch shows about real people. So I'm just really happy with everything. I actually don't have much of negative notes here.
Zendaya was nominated too for Best Actress. I think that's awesome that
she deserved it.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
Ginger, what do you think about the Emmys? You big TV fan, and are you excited to watch some of these shows maybe you haven't seen?
I was gonna say, I think if anything, it highlights how much time I spend watching Marvel and Star Wars recently, because it was just a list of things I clearly need to be watching. I was surprised to not see Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. Like her performance, and this is like, I'm contractually obligated as like a redhead to like speak to other redheads and how great they are. Like, it's a thing. But that aside, like, she was really powerful this season, incredibly so. So that was a little surprising. And then a little personal feelings. Our Flag Means Death not being there hurt my heart a little bit.
Yes.
I just have a lot of love and respect for what that show did, and it was disappointing to not see it present at all. It's nice to see what we do in the shadows there, though. So,
Mike, that's my guess, right? Is that they felt like maybe they couldn't. If it was like a tie goes to what we do in the shadows, yeah, you only get one choice here. That was such a good show too, Sarah. Emmy nominations.
You only get one good comedy. So you know what? I was looking over them, and I just really. I'm gonna be honest, because like I'm a big horror fan and a big FX person. I hate that I'm not surprised that Stranger Things didn't get any like actor nominations or anything like that. Like that kind of stuff is always like notoriously considered like easy. It's just like all you gotta do is be scared and it's this constant like lack. It's the same thing with animation. It's always kind of looked as lesser than kind of a
Yeah.
like it never get and like and not no all these shows are good. I get it. They're in the Emmys for a reason, but it's a lot of the same stuff and like to the point of like looking at Ted Lasso, which has 1,000,001 nominations. That kind of quip acting is no different than what we do in The Shadows or Our Flag Means Death. It's the same quantity of acting, but because it takes place in the world that we can relate to and probably has a common ground with people because it's about a sport and not set in a whimsical or magical setting, it just is somehow considered better. And I think it's just more of a relatability contest, like a
That's a very
popularity.
interesting point.
And I'm so used to that with horror because it's one of my favorite genres, and I'm just so used to being like, well, of course, of course. So once again, this doesn't surprise me. It's just become what it is. I think that she just didn't just steal the show. I thought she was more popular than all the other
1000%.
characters. She really just like stole, and there was like a lack of accounting for age, and experience, which I think elevates. Like it's like when you see like people like Christian Bale or Kristen Dunst doing the performance of a lifetime when they're children. And I think just once again, and also if I'm being frank, I think because Stranger Things is a sublet of meta horror, this idea of pointing out homages, like there's an original story, but the whole point is that you are supposed to recognize things that are taken from other content. That's part of the joy of the show. It's almost like it's not original enough. I guarantee you there was some film critic behind that just didn't think it was original enough. And I think that because what we do in The Shadows is a comedy, it just got like kind of through the door, but it's not going to win, even though I think it's one of the smarter shows on television. So all these did was once again re-solidify my belief in the elitism and the ridiculous stuffiness of award shows like this, especially because if this show had happened 7 years ago, the fact that any show that was only on a streaming service would have gotten made would have been considered laughable and been considered lowbrow in that critical community.
That's a very, very inspired take. I love this.
There's some dope bisexuality and queer community representations in some of these TV shows, and they got snubbed as well.
Yep.
Yes.
100%. I agree.
So basically, I was like, yay, some things for the things. And Sarah was like, it's not enough.
So basically, you were wrong. No, you're
Well, it is good to see Squid Game get a ton of nominations. And I know that was just like mega popular. And it's like that kind of fits into more of like an Americanized kind of a show, right?
But once again, the death game style in that and in culture, over there, and like that is a story that has been told 1,000,001 times in anime or 1,000,001 times in shows that never got released to America. It got nominated this time because it became popular and people discovered it. Once again, it goes back to a relatability issue. It is great, but it's not the first of its kind. There were several things that could have been nominated before that, but because now that we know it exists, it is revolutionary when it's just a copy of many things before. Doesn't mean it's not good, but it doesn't mean it's better than the other things that came before.
I'm fired up right now.
I'm getting fired up.
I am fired up too right now. So after our first two questions, Sarah clearly in the lead with her passion at 12 points, and Mia and Ginger are tied at 10. So that's after our first two rounds. You guys have plenty of time to catch up. Sarah, thank you for all of the things that you'd offer us. Before we go to the next round, any predictions that anyone has they want to make, like any surprises they see coming, anything like that? No.
Like, you want me to tell your future?
Like
Are you
in
talking
life?
about the Emmys?
No, sorry.
I got my cards.
In the Emmys. You can tell my future if you
I was
want.
like, my
No, the
prediction
Emmys.
is I'm
Gonna
not going to
drop.
be any more fired up than this because I'm really neutral all the time.
All right, well,
Someone's gonna make a speech about something the political, and the internet is gonna lose its mind. That's my prediction.
A couple shows that if you have not seen that are on this list that I would definitely recommend. Mia mentioned Severance. It's not as popular of a show as it probably should be.
Yes.
I have heard nothing but great things about Yellow Jackets, and that's like next on the list. And Killing Eve is awesome. I don't care what anybody says. That show's incredibly good. Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer are so really good, just great in that show. If you have not watched, check it out. All right, let's get into our second round. Comic-Con in San Diego is this week, and there's a lot of rumors swirling about from all over the place. You know, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, Star Wars. Marvel Studios is back this year at San Diego Comic-Con for the first time, I think, since like 2019. So it's been a while, and there's going to be a lot of big news coming out this year. So, you know, let's talk convention. Let's talk about, are you excited for San Diego Comic-Con? Does it feel like we're like, this is it? Like, this is the coronation, cons are back? And what news and rumors do you want to hear coming out of this week? Let's start with Ginger.
All right. Do I feel like San Diego Comic-Con coming back is like the coronation of cons coming back? Not necessarily. Cons have been back for a little while. You know, they've been adjusting and trying their best, and I really laud them for that. Like, great, awesome. It does. I mean, it feels a little bit like a return to normalcy. I don't usually partake in San Diego Comic-Con. It is so many people for my like bandwidth of people. But I mean, I'm excited about some things. Like I know Blade hasn't started shooting yet, but I really hope we get like some art from Blade. I want something. I want a little, like, give me a little taste of Blade. Like I want that. That's number one, I think, on my list. And then more Lord of the Rings. I need more Lord of the Rings. I am a huge Tolkien fan. Amazon diverted all its power and money and talent away from Wheel of Time, which I will be mad about until the day I die. So Lord of the Rings better be good.
That is, every time I've watched or tried to watch Wheel of Time, that's all I think about is like, man, they put all the FX budget into Lord of the Rings and took it out of here.
Yeah, you
Mia,
can feel it when you watched it. So that's
100%. Mia, what do you think about this year in Comic-Con? What are you excited to hear about, or what do you want to know more about?
Definitely more Lord of the Rings. Also a huge Tolkien fan. Lord of the Rings was my Star Wars. It was my first big taste of huge budget fantasy stuff. So I've been in love with it ever since and will always be a diehard. I'm wondering if maybe I know it was kind of just announced, but maybe they'll say something about Snow, the story of Jon Snow. I would actually be very curious about that a little bit. House of Dragons would be pretty cool. I mean, they have a lot of work to do to help that fandom. So I'm honestly curious to see what they do. But it's mostly those two. And I had actually totally forgotten about Blade. So thank you for reminding me. I am super hyped for anything about that. Yeah.
For Blade, they have a casting rumor out. Do you guys want me to tell you? Do you guys know? Did you hear that?
What
is it?
So the Anthony Starr, the guy that plays Homelander, is rumored to be casted as Dracula, the villain in Blade.
Into it. I'm really into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's great. So
I'm super into
all right.
that.
So Sarah, what do you think about Comic-Con? Are you excited for San Diego? I know you've been. Are you going?
Well, yeah. So I'm actually known for. So I've been going for over 10 years. This is actually the first year I opted to not go.
Okay.
You know, and I know Marvel's coming back, but the last couple of years, it's hard now because a lot of these big franchises have kind of chosen to have their own conventions. And someone who has been doing it for so long and has done used to be able just to walk in to like, okay, now I got to get there at 3 a.m. to I'm sleeping on the street, even though I'm paying $900 a night for a hotel room that has a 2-hour shuttle ride to and back. It just became for me, I think now, as someone, I think it's really good to go if you've never been before because it's very exciting. It's definitely more about the nightlife now than it actually is about the convention, because there used to be a time when they would release stuff and then I would know about it for weeks before the trailer came out in the theater. Now, then the studios, they just release the trailer like 4 minutes after you see it in the convention hall. So it's really lost the exclusivity for the cost, in my opinion. Especially now, like Ginger pointed out, there was so many other conventions. Like I can just meet people and only pay $50 for an autograph instead of having to do this whole thing. So in my opinion, I actually am not looking forward to anything because I don't have to look forward to it because I'm going to find out 1 minute after everybody else does. So in terms of the content that's going to be there, very excited for that. In terms of the convention itself, I think it's kind of outgrown the mythology of it. I don't think it's as epic as it used to be. That being said, I am one of the lucky ones who has been so many times that I don't have this like untouchable thing, an inaccessible thing. So I'm not going to diss anybody who does want to go, especially if you live there, might as well go. But the work that goes into that convention is something that's not talked about much. It's like trying to get bread in like post World War I Russia, where you're with your wheelbarrow of money trying to get a loaf to feed your family just to get a ticket in a hotel room. And I think at this point, the internet's caught up too much, and there's still too many. Disney's never going to be back. There's so many franchises. Star Wars has their own convention now. Like, it's lost a lot of the glamour.
All that to be said,
Debbie Downer.
all that to be said, though, if you haven't been before, it is worth it still. I would agree with you on that point. But if you've gone a few times, that luster does kind of lose a little bit, because I have literally slept in streets with hotels that are down, I can't go to because I want to get in line for something else. So, yeah, no more anymore. That's not our lives now.
You've been convinced to not go.
Boom. Exactly.
Mia, I want to tell you, House of Dragon, I was not excited for that.
Oof.
I am still technically not excited. What I'm waiting for is to become excited.
Well,
what I'm waiting for is for Matt
release...
Smith's wig to start looking better. Like, that's what I want. That's what I'm waiting for.
He looks weird as a blonde. He really
I need to adjust mentally to that in order to accept anything about that.
It makes me so sad because he's such a phenomenal actor. Yes. And it's like, I can't.
Wigs are so bad.
Release some behind the scenes stuff on House of Dragon. It looks really actually kind of good. I'm more and more excited for it the more and more I hear about it. And did any of you guys see Morbius? Matt Smith was in Morbius, and he was really good in that movie. I don't care what anybody says.
You did I haven't.
Sarah, we'll talk later about this.
Well, I'll do it if we can pick a bunch of mushrooms. That's the only way I'm going to watch that.
Hey, Matt Smith has a musical number where he talks about how happy he is that he can go be a vampire. So where he's like dancing and singing. If that doesn't get you to watch Morbius, I don't know what will. Okay, so next question. We've done this show quite a while now. And, and actually I just checked. We're coming up on a year where I've been hosting, and it's been going on longer than that. And I want to hear just your hot takes, right? Like, I want to hear what your maybe most unpopular opinion would be, or just whatever you think that really might be something that is maybe shocking to the rest of us. Who would like to go first? Any good hot takes? Mia, you are quick to the draw. Let's go, Mia. What do you got?
I don't think necessarily that it's a hot take, but requiring people to be the same level of passion in a fandom that you are is a solid no. You can enjoy something, you can be a fan of it, and you can not know every single thing about it. And I think those who fan check on that as well, on people who say that they're a fan of something, you're the reason why they may or may not end up continuing to be a fan. And I think there's a problem with case in point, when it came to Stranger Things and the D&D, the rocker, all of that, Gen Z has now been introduced to some new music, and there's a lot of rocker fans who are like, this isn't what we want. You only like this because of this, and we've been here this whole time. And yeah, you've been here. That's why they paid homage to you in the show. And now there gets to be a whole new group of people that get to be a part of that too, and add to this thing that you love. I do not understand this. Like being a nerdy person who loves anime, and anime coming further and further and further to the forefront, and listening to my fellow anime fans get frustrated about that. Oh, okay, yeah, so we got bullied and some of us have issues of it. Cool. But now we get to have more. We get to have more of the thing that we love. Why is that a bad thing? Maybe it's not up to the same standards or quality that you think it should be. Okay. But just like with Marvel continuously putting out content that there's going to have to be zeros, it's going to be the same thing when it comes to any other nerdy thing. The more of it that comes out, the more likely it is that there's going to be something that you do not like or agree with or want to happen within it. And that's just a part of what happens when it comes to the forefront, to the center stage, when it gets bigger. That's what happens. Either what really tests someone as a fan is whether or not you continue to love it after that happens. There you go.
That was really, really good. I really appreciate the take on that, because you're just so spot on. Sarah, did you guys want to add anything on that?
I just laughed because I caught myself going, which is the exact thing that you were saying I shouldn't do, because I kept wanting to be like, it was metal fans, not rock fans. It's two different.
Oh my god! No, you're right. I'm
Total
so
goth girl
sorry.
moment. No, but it's not. But it's not a big deal. But like the urge to want to like make that correction is like one example of being like, do not put me with metalheads. Like no. So I was just laughing. I was like, oh my god, I'm doing what you're saying I shouldn't do. Shut up, Sarah. Like
I'm right there with you because there was part of me that's like, but is it really metal if it's Metallica? Like, what are we really talking about here? So I guess we're all guilty.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, what's your hot take? What do you got? What do you want to talk about today?
This is a spawn off of Fan Expo Denver. I hosted it on my podcast. I did a panel and I kind of talked about this, and it came up a lot with I was talking to other cosplayers and stuff on the floor. I think that Harley Quinn is one of the most pivotal and influential and important lessons and characters that a girl should be introduced to in the modern world. And the idea of infantilizing her, that was not the right word, but you know what I meant,
Yes.
and diminishing the character, I think is the patriarch's way of trying to stop women from learning lessons. And I think that this is a propaganda, and we need to have Harley Quinn back on the forefront of the nerd pop culture community. And my answer
1000%.
and I won't get into too many details of it, but I believe that during the Batman animated series in the 90s, many girls, little girls like myself, enjoyed watching what a terrible person the Joker was. We loved watching the dynamic. It was so silly. He was just like, this beat up kind of guy. And then as the show got older, as the seasons went on, he got just a little bit more aggressive, constantly pushed buttons. It kept going and going and going until finally one day he had a domestic violence abuse, and we watched on screen as children the Joker beat up Harley Quinn bloodily. We saw the blood and he threw it the window. And then we learned that we all just went through a domestic violence relationship from behind the screen and experience what it was like to fall for the charm, and then watch how when a guy becomes, these red flags, they come little and little and little. And I can go into much bigger detail, but I only have a short amount of time. But I'm a big believer that animation is the new modern fairy tales. It's how we deal with death. It's how we deal with gender identity. It's how we deal with loss, just like how we learned, don't talk to wolves. And I think that it's become popular to dismiss the Harley Quinn character. And I think it might be one of the most valuable ways we can teach young women to have these experiences and learn what it's like to stick up for yourself and to recognize toxic men. And for whatever reason now, because this character has reached that evolution, it's become this dismissal blonde bimbo. And I just feel like it's gatekeeping within the convention community because everybody thinks that it's a basic cosplay and a basic character. And I think it's one of the most important characters in Gen Z and millennials' lives. And we need to stop dismissing it and stop diminishing her because she has a vagina, because at the end of the day, that's what it effing is.
So I want to hear what Ginger and me have to say, but I do want to follow up, Sarah. I have a question to ask you because this is a really awesome thing. I actually never heard this take before, right? And so, what do we do? Like, how do we be better with this? Like, do you have any? I don't know if you've thought about that. I meant by putting you on the spot or not.
There's two things I want to say. One, read a book, educate yourself, because it is unfair to put the responsibility of education on the person that is asking you to see a point of view, because I am not a scholar. I am not someone who can go through. So like, this is an opinion-based thing. So one is, it's just like the same thing of like, it's not every Black person's job to teach you Black history because you're trying to be better. You can be better on your own. So what you can do is stop needing the women in your circle or the women in your life to be your educator and take on the emotional burden of managing your growth. And what anybody can do is go ahead and try to do your own research. Or if you want to participate with somebody in your circle, make it a communal, a back and forth, an actual conversation. Don't just be like, I disagree with your comment on Facebook. Now I expect a 10-page dissertation with biography references in the comment section. Click, click. Like, don't do that crap. That's what you can do.
Okay.
So,
Full agree.
Be proactive and figure it out. Figure it out for yourself. All right, Ginger, what do you got? What's your hot take?
Yeah. So my hot take is basically like a little bow around everything that has been talked about up to this point. One of the panels that I get asked to do most often at conventions is around cosplay positivity and how do we create a less toxic and more welcoming environment for cosplayers both in and out of the convention community. And we touch on all these topics. We talk a lot about gatekeeping and character dismissal, and, you know, people being inappropriate to other people based on the character that they're portraying, not thinking about the fact that they're a human being in a costume. There are all these points that come out during this panel. But from that, we come up with suggestions of, well, how do cons do better? How do, you know, non-cosplaying con attendees help? Like, how are we allies for each other? How do we improve this? And ultimately, like, the core tenet across all of it is communication. So I get really excited when we have discussions like this, because, like, this is the thing that I encourage everyone to do, which is to talk to each other about how they're feeling and what's going on and what's been said to you. Because I do this thing. It's kind of like the who's been personally victimized by Regina George, right? I make everyone in the room. I was like, okay, who has, you know, been attacked on the internet or in person for something related to cosplay? And, like, everyone's hands go up, and then I make them look at each other, because we're still not talking about it. We're still not realizing it feels and is sometimes so personal, and you get in this bubble and this vacuum of, you are attacking me and it's only me, and therefore my worth is less because you have attacked me based on something that I thought I loved or was right about or was happy about, but clearly I was wrong. But that's not the case. It's not about you. It's about them doing something poorly, behaving badly, sometimes misunderstanding and needing an education, and that's fine. But then there's a whole bunch of us on the same side. We're just not talking to each other. And so I think finding that community, talking to each other, realizing that this is really not about your self-worth, and that there are so many more of you on the side of needing to stand up for the community, it becomes very powerful. Like, it turns a victimized feeling into something quite empowering. So I love when these discussions happen about how do we draw attention to, I had a bad word I was going to say, to
You could say whatever.
ass hattery in the convention and nerd scene. I don't know. There are levels of bad words. But so this is it. It's really exciting. We need to talk to each other. Nerds, talk to each other in a nice, civil way. If you're attacked, if you see someone attacked, stand up for the other person. Be there for each other. Sometimes that person is not in a place to stand up for themselves. And so be an ally for each other.
That's
Call
really
each other
awesome.
out in a respectful way. Don't attack. Don't attack.
Andy, this is your most inspirational and deep last word, and I'm just saying.
I was about to say we need to cut this part out and, like, share it with the world. You know,
man, maybe we should just
do that.
Some more girls' nights. It's just,
please.
Well, I am very glad that you were all here, and I'm very glad that this is the conversation we had here, because I completely agree with you. This has been awesome to talk about, and hopefully this is something that we can continue to share. We can continue to stand up for each other. We could continue to, like, be allies for one another in this community, because we are all on the same team. You know, we all love the same things. We all want to be a part of the same community. And so this is great. I'm definitely not going to be scoring that question, though. That would be a weird thing to do. So after that SDCC question, everyone's going to be tied. So I'm going to go into the final round with all three of you, because I'm curious to see how you're going to answer the question.
You're not ready.
In a complete tonal shift from our previous question, the producers for John Wick this week came out and said the character was supposed to be 75 years old before they cast Keanu Reeves. And I'm just curious, who do you think would be the best selection for John Wick? Now I think it could be Jane Wick too, right? Like, I think there could be some badass older women too that could fill the role. So if you have some casting there, don't be afraid to pick them, and let's hear what you got. Best casting take for me wins. Let's start with Ginger. Let's start with you.
All right. So with this question, my mind immediately goes Harrison Ford, because I just love Harrison Ford a lot and I just want to see him do stuff. But then I'm like, no, wrong, out, get out of here, Harrison Ford. Sean Pertwee, Alfred from Gotham. He's not 75, but he is in his 60s. He can kick butt. Like, he's amazing. Love him. I feel that in my soul. I really want angry about his dog, Sean Pertwee, potentially Sam Elliott. I won't be taking questions on that.
Okay. Sarah, who do you got as your pick for the casting?
Okay, so just like miniature confession, I had to Google what John Wick was about. I've heard about it, never seen it. Honestly, I've never even seen a James Bond movie. If it doesn't have like some sort of sci-fi time travel fantasy, like if it's just a regular action movie, it bores me. So I've just never watched it. I'm not saying it's not great, it's just not for me. So after doing some internet sleuthing on the secret website I know about called Wikipedia in the dark web, I did some research. And same thing. So I actually have a female and a male choice because I do think recasting it a woman would be good. But I thought that Dennis Macarenko, he's from Reservoir Dogs. He's 79. He was most people don't. If you look up the name, you'll know who he is. I think I even pulled up a picture of him because I was like, I don't think anybody will know who he is. But he also like was in From Dusk Till Dawn. He played the preacher. You might know that one better.
Okay.
I thought he would be good, but then I thought not as old, but I thought Ming-Na Wen would play a good character from that as well. I think she would, I think I think she has a maturity and like this like mysteriousness about her. And as being Mulan, and then in the Boba Fett and the series, and then also in Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., she has the Disney hat trick. So why not just throw on the this super awesome assassin lady.
All right, I like that. Mia, who do you have as your casting for older John Wick?
I have 4.
It's fine.
Okay. So for over 75, I have Sam Elliott as well. For just at 70, I have Michael Keaton. For going
Michael Keaton's good.
That's a good one.
Thank you for going into an entirely different culture and even shifting a little bit of the plot. I have Hiroyuki Sanada, and if you don't know where he's from, okay, you guys are giving me faces.
I Google it, but I don't know if I can spell it.
Let me get him really quick. He's fantastic. You've definitely seen him in things. Okay. Let's see if you saw If you saw The Last Samurai, he was in that. God, that's going to bother me. And for my Sigourney Weaver as my over 60 lady Wick.
Oh, Hiroyuki Sanada was in Mortal Kombat.
Yes, he was. He was first Scorpion. He was the best scene. Yep, actually the best scene. So yes, those are my casting choices.
Sigourney Weaver was on my list as well. My honorable mentions were who was this? Let's see here. Kirk Douglas was one of them. Tommy Lee Jones was one I would like to see as an older.
Interesting.
And I don't know if you guys would be into Tommy Lee Jones, but and then the last one that I had was, and I know that she's not with us anymore, but I'd love to see a Betty White John Wick. I'm sad that we didn't get that.
Up. That's the one. That's the one.
I don't want any changes to the script though. I want a word for word remake.
Entire thing with her.
I had Sigourney Weaver on my list, so I'm going to give the win to Mia because that's who I picked, is Sigourney Weaver. So congratulations, Mia, on your win today.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Let me give you your winners championship overlay here.
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to talk about something. Talk about myself. What's going on in my life right now? I'm moving to a big city. I'm moving to Chicago at the end of August. Very excited. It'll be my first time living in a ginormous city, and I'm terrified and exhilarated about it. And I have a going away party this Saturday, 1 to 5 in Austin, Texas. It is a cosplay ball that is also a prom. So it's a prom with a thing that's cosplay ball. And come dressed up if you're coming. It's at the Come and Take It. Of course, that's the venue I booked. Concert venue in Austin.
I am very excited to crash your going away party now in Texas.
Please.
Sarah and
I was like,
maybe
just announce like where she was gonna be, what day, what time. I'm dropping a pin. This is where I keep my key. I won't be in my house from this hour to this hour.
Betty White, John Wick there to protect.
Well, the event is actually a public event because I paid for the venue. So yes, they need to know where it's at. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody enjoy your going away party. You're going to do great in a big city. No, we're not worried about you. And if you need help, you got plenty of family around to help out. Okay.
Wait,
Yes, I do.
Andy, if I was in Colorado Springs next month and maybe I wanted to see you or me or Project Nerd, which is what I think the last word's on, where would I go?
We would need to go to Colorado Springs Comic-Con to do that. And that's going to be on August 19th to the 21st. That's here in Colorado Springs. And that's why it's in the name of the convention. And it's not called Comic-Con. What is it called now? Colorado Springs. Is it still Comic-Con?
It's it's Colorado Springs Comic-Con. But right? Isn't that what it is?
It's one of my favorite cons because it has like a big feel to it, but yet there's still a real intimacy with a lot of the people that show up there. So,
you know what? Andy, do you like film festivals?
I'm a big film festival fan. Is there something coming up in early August that I should know about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure coming up here in early August, around August 6th, I think, doesn't Project Nerd have its own film festival here in Colorado?
In Boulder, right?
Is that what it is? I think it is. I hope.
These are rhetorical questions, guys. This is happening
really smooth. So I like that smooth promotion.
In Boulder, August 6th, you can go to the Project Nerd website, and it's on the front page there. You could get tickets to our very first film festival. The lineup of movies is on there as well. We really want to keep doing this, and so if you guys are excited about maybe watching movies that are made by locals or just there's a lot of curated content here for everybody. So we just would love to have everyone come out and support this and just, be a part of promoting local and promoting what Colorado can do as filmmakers and creators. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for being here for the show. Like I said, we will see you August 6th. We'll see you August 19th. I will be back in a couple weeks, and have a great night. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.